Hi, my name is Jacob Benish, and I'm an incoming medical student at UNMC, and this is my application for the Scott Scholars Program. I'd like to start with a quote from Pulitzer Prize winner and National Humanities Medal recipient Marilynne Robinson from her book, Absence of Mind. In it, she says, "There is no such thing as the scientific world. There is rather just the world. And what we are trying to do is describe how it works and describe our situation in it." In her book, Robinson is identifying a schism in Western thinking between science and between humane learning. And this quote kind of gets at the crux of that schism. And that schism comes from 20th century scientific thinking of creating a new world almost. And even though science has helped us advance the world very far, it hasn't created a new world that we live in. The real world is still the real world, just like it always has been. And science just better helps us understand that world. And this might just sound like some philosopher yearning for the old days, but the schism is important because it excludes factors from science that are necessary to our understanding of what it's like to be human. And because of this, the image of humanity that we get when we look at science through a scientific, when we look at humanity through a scientific lens, and I think, the Darwinian primate who is focused only on advancing the genome, that's a very different image than we get if we look at humanity through a cultural lens or a historical lens, where you look at martyrs dying for their faith, or, lovers dying for their loved ones, and stuff like that. Swinging around to the prompt, health design thinking is an attempt to rectify the schism between science and humane learning. It doesn't just use charts and graphs and data sets when it's making its decision. Health design thinking puts the person first. And I feel cliche saying that, but it's true and it's really important, so I want to say it again. Health design thinking puts the person first. This is something that seems so simple, so innocuous, yet it's such a radical shift away from the scientific 20th century thinking, and it's a shift towards integrating our understanding of humanity from a scientific perspective, but also from a cultural and a historical perspective. And this can only lead to a deeper understanding of people, and in turn, a deeper understanding of patients. This could have tremendous impacts in the medical field. It's a step towards rectifying discrimination in healthcare by seeing the whole person. It's a step towards building functional medical systems in underserved populations by understanding the culture and the history of those populations. And it's a step towards a better tomorrow. I believe health design's thinking's insistence on putting the person first could be the most impactful change to medical care in the 21st century. Next, I'd like to jump over to question 3 and talk about a healthcare challenge in Nebraska that I think can be addressed through health design thinking principles, and that's the healthcare disparity in Omaha. It surprises a lot of people if they're not from Omaha that Omaha is one of the more segregated cities in the United States. The city is divided along racial lines, with black people living in North Omaha, Hispanic people living in South Omaha, and then white people in West Omaha. This came about through redlining and through our ugly racist history, and that's just the truth of it. And the divide has brought on a lot of stereotypes, and many of those stereotypes are negative. They're negative towards the North Omaha community. Going to Creighton University, North Omaha was just across Cumming streets from us, and it was quote-unquote common knowledge that it was dangerous to go across the street, and if you did, you would get shot or you'd be a victim of gang violence. Stereotypes like that, though, they're rude, they're unhelpful, and they don't show the whole picture of the community. I got to spend a lot of time volunteering at the Heart Ministry Center in North Omaha during college, and through this, I got to meet a lot of amazing members of the community, whether they were coming through the food line or whether they were out there volunteering with me. One of them was named Big Lou, and he was named Big Lou because he was 6'5", had shoulders like a bull, and could lift like 1,000,000 pounds or something like that. And learning his story, he told me, his history of drug abuse and his time spent in prison, but he also, told me about his time in church and his time at the gym and stuff like that, and we really bonded a lot. He also introduced me to a lot of the awesome cultural sites in the area, like the Black History Museum and the Community Art Creation Center. And through talking with him, other people, and seeing the amazing things in the area, I really grew a strong appreciation for the culture and the community in that area. Going back to the negative stereotypes, though, they've led to a lack of medical access in North Omaha. And using the health design thinking is a perfect approach to filling some medical coverage gaps. A lot of the lack of access comes from the resources not being in the area, but another part of the equation is the people in North Omaha community, they feel like the medical care isn't for them, at least the traditional medical care system. They just don't have a lot of faith in the system because, the system has failed them so many times before. But health design thinking's focus on the person, it has the opportunity to rebuild the faith in the North Omaha community in the medical system. And this can come about through understanding the history of North Omaha, the redlining that's happened there, the interstate that was built through and cut the community in half, the culture that's now there because of all that history, what's important to those people, what they care about, what they fear. And by integrating and working with community leadership, while also bringing in a larger medical presence, the North Omaha community might start to finally regain faith in the medical system. Now I want to jump over to question 9 and talk about how I plan to leverage opportunities provided by this program to maximize my growth in medicine. One thing that really excites me about this program is that it's so new. With new programs like these, there's such a wide array of options to grow the program in so many different positive directions. So even before even getting into specifics, I'm excited for the general opportunity to work closely with faculty and staff and classmates in growing this program. I don't expect to have a final say in any major decisions or anything like that, but I think it'd be really cool to leave my mark at UNMC by influencing the growth of a new program like this. Going more into program specifics though, I'm really hopeful for the discussions that this program will bring about between its members. Looking back at my favorite college classes, one of them was definitely my philosophy senior seminar capstone course. It was a discussion class with all the philosophy majors, and even though I'd had classes with the philosophy majors at one point or another, this was the first time where we all got to come together. And it was awesome because we all loved philosophy. It was a passion of mine and it was a passion of everyone else's in the class. And that was the first time I had a class like that. I was excited, that much passion in the room. It made me excited to go to class for every meeting, and I did a deep dive into every reading because I didn't want to miss out on a single moment, a single discussion. And that type of passion is what I kind of expect this program provides. A group of 10 or 12 students where everyone cares about the topics, everyone's listening to what others has to say, and everyone's formulating discussion to help bring the understanding of the group to a better spot. That's where true intellectual growth between people happens. Another impactful experience I hope to get out of this program is to engage with some of the underserved populations in the Omaha area, like the North Omaha community. It's crucial for people in positions like ours to hold a special concern for the poor and the vulnerable in our communities. It's just a truth of the world, and there's a great opportunity for students to learn about the causes behind medical disparities between communities by going into those communities that are underserved. One way to do this would be to go out and volunteer in those communities. I'm a firm believer that the best way to learn is through action. And the only way to really feel what it's like to be in those communities is to actually go into those communities and experience those communities for yourself. See what it's like to live there, talk to the people, see what they care about, what they want with their lives, what they stand to lose, what matters to those people. And that helps you understand them. And you can't help them if you don't understand them. And understanding other people, that's what empathy is. And empathy, it's not just a trait, it's also a skill. And like any skill, you can get better at it. So I'm looking for this program to push me to not only see, but relate to the struggles of those who don't have the same opportunities that I do. Now I want to jump over to question 4 and talk about an example of teamwork I had for my life. I'm going to tell a story from working on a dude ranch last summer. So at this dude ranch, it's where guests come and we take them out on rides. We were in the Colorado, and one ride we took them out on is called the all-day ride. And so it's an all-day ride. The name, kind of tells what it is. And the 3 people taking them out were the 3 wranglers, me, Quilla, and Abby. So we went out the first half, first 7 miles out, and it was awesome. It was beautiful. Blue skies, nice little breeze, mountains in the background, and we had a beautiful picnic lunch out there. Then we saddled up again, and we get moving. And Quilla is the only one who's ever done this ride before at this point, because it was the first time we'd done it, and she was the only one who'd returned from last year. So she was kind of telling us where to turn and stuff. And as we're going along, and keep in mind, all of this happens in about 1 hour. Everything that I'm about to describe, that kind of falls apart. So some storm clouds start to move in, and we get a little bit of a drizzle. And then we take a fork in the road, and we're about 5 minutes into that fork, and Quilla realizes we're going the wrong way. So she calls up, and I'm leading, and she calls up to turn around. And so right when she does that, the wind picks up, and the rain starts to come down harder, and it starts to lightning around us, and some ducks fly out of the water. And Magnum, the horse I'm riding, freaks out and spins around and almost throws me off him, but I managed to stay on. While that happened, and when the wind blew up, it blew a kid's hat off, so I go ride Magnum over to the hat, get off my horse, pick up the hat for him, give it back to him, and then I try to get back on, but my saddle had slipped to the side when I tried to get back on because, it was getting wet now. And so I called over to Abby with a little bit of nervousness in my voice, and I called, "Hey, Abby, can you come help me?" So she held my horse while I got everything back in order and got back on, and we get moving again, and it's lightning all around, and we're out in the open, and there's like no good cover for us to go to, so we just got to keep on going. And we get to this creek crossing, and Quilla goes across first, and she gets off her horse to walk other horses across because it's a little bit, nerve-wracking of an experience. So she walks people's horses across, but the first one goes careening to the right and then barely gets back out of the creek. And so I go across next so that I can hold Quilla's horse for her, and she gets the rest of the people across, and then we start going up the hill. And as we're going up the hill, the horse behind me slips onto its front knees, and I thought I was going to have to put the horse down for a second, but the horse got back up, and we all made it out there just okay, and we ended up making it home, and it was a good experience. It was fun, even though it was nerve-wracking, and I attribute it being still fun and everyone having a good experience, even the guests, to the wranglers keeping a cool head. Me, Quilla, and Abby, we worked as a team, and there were a lot of points where I thought we were going to come home with someone injured or a horse injured, and Abby and Quilla shared those sentiments. But we never let that nervousness show through as a group. And when one of us was starting to falter, another one of us was there to pick the other one up. When, my saddle had fallen down to the side, I was extremely nervous about what I was going to do. But Abby came over and she held my horse while I got it all together. And when Quilla was trying to help people across, it was very hectic for her while trying to hold her horse while also doing that. So I came over and helped her out. And it really taught me that working as a team in tough situations like that is just being there to help your teammates out when they fall, being there to pick the other person up and trying to keep a strong face as much as you can. Now I want to jump over to question 8 and talk about my long-term career goals in medicine and how I think this program can help with that. One career idea I've considered is becoming a medical writer. My grandma was actually the one who taught me to read, and this set off a love of books in my life. And even though I've always loved reading, I was never really serious about the idea of becoming a writer because being a doctor was always first on my mind. That was, though, until I read When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi. If you haven't read it, do. It's so good. I'm not going to spoil anything, but the book did make me cry. It was that good. But also, it wasn't until reading that book that I realized that I could actually combine my passion for working in medicine with my passion for reading and writing. I think the Scott Scholars program would indirectly help me move towards the goal of becoming a medical writer. First, you have to have something interesting to write about if you want to be a writer, something out of the ordinary. And Scott Scholars, it's a cool, special program, and it would introduce me to interesting concepts, and it would get me out into diverse communities where I'd be talking with new people and learning about unique cultures and going out into the world, experiencing life like that. That's how you build interesting stories. Also, I expect there to be more writing in this program than there is in a traditional medical school studies, at least, additional writing to some extent. And that's important to me because the only way to become a better writer is to just keep on writing more and more and more. Another goal I've considered is being on a medical ethics board. First of all, I think this is something I would really enjoy being a part of. I love discussing important yet controversial issues. And I think there are some people out there who like this sort of thing because they love the conflict and the drama, or they love having a gotcha moment where they make a really strong point and feel smart about themselves. But I love it because I love seeing the different way that people consider positions. When people are considering positions, they're considering what's important. And when you look at how they consider positions and what's important, it gives you really great insight into what's important to those people. And when you look at it from that factor, usually you see that the people who are arguing hold a lot of the values together. They hold a lot of very similar values. And usually they're a lot closer to each other than first meets the eye. I think being on a medical ethics board would also be a great continuation of my studies as a philosophy major. When I first chose philosophy, I wanted to specialize in ethics, but I just didn't have the time in the schedule. Still, though, ethics still has a soft spot in my heart, and I think being on a medical ethics board would perfectly suit my interests. Scott Scholars would help me move towards this goal because it focuses on creating a holistic education experience, and that's needed to understand ethics. I love how Scott Scholars seems to have a modern liberal arts education focus of creating empathetic individuals. If I want to go to school just to learn facts, I wouldn't be going to medical school. And I am, though, and it's because I'm passionate about the values that Scott Scholars wants to grow: empathy, holistic learning, community engagement. And I think my passion for things like that would provide great value to the program, because a program like this, it isn't really successful unless its students really care about what they're doing. And I'm willing to buy into Scott Scholars because I believe it will help me get the most of my medical school education, because I believe I can make major impacts on the UNMC campus and surrounding communities through this program. That about wraps it up. I just want to say thank you very much for taking the time to review my application and putting the effort in to make this program special. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Goodbye.